In this video, I will show you how to put together this 3D heart treasure box, which is an SVG file from Simply Crafty SVGs. So here are the pieces to the box. So I separate them by the top and bottom. So these are the tops. So you have those. That's the back hinge piece. This will be inside there, and the edge and the top. So we have that. And then we have the bottom. So you're going to have two of these without a tab, and then you're going to have two of these with a tab. So it'll be like that. And then we have these two pieces for the bottom, and then this will be the opening edge. And then these are the panels, which we're going to put together. And I just found this pattern paper with words on it, which I liked. So we have these panels like this, and this will go on the back and this will be on the front, and these are the side panels. So we'll go ahead and take these. The smaller ones will be for the top, because you can see right here they'll go like that after we put it together. That's the bigger ones, and the smaller ones will go on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and put these with those, and then we're going to put aside the bottom part of the box. And I did emboss these with an embossing folder. It is a Cuttlebug folder that is retired. I have that in my notes. Oh, here are little embellishments too. The flower and little pieces here for the back hinge piece. So we have all those. So I put them in this little box that I created. I just playing around. Sometimes when I put something together, I just used it as a holder. So I'm just going to take those out and put them up here. So first, let's go ahead. We'll probably put the flowers together and put the panels on. So I'm going to go ahead and take these and just put them aside for now. And let's go ahead, and I have this bone folder. I don't know, I had it in the thing, but we'll be using that to do some curling. So we're going to go ahead and place these. So I am using mostly the cardstock I use is American Crafts texture cardstock. And I just printed this using digital paper. It's pretty, and today I'm using art glitter glue. So I do like Barely Art and art glitter glue. So when you put it on this, so I'm going to start with this piece. We're going to line it up right here. So it's going to center all the way around, so you have a little edge around. And then this edge is going to line up down here. So we're going to center it like this. And we want to make sure we have an equal distance around. And you want to make sure it's center as possible as we do the bottom part. We're going to do the same thing. We want it to match up so it looks like a heart when it's together. So we'll go ahead and add glue. And I've been using Barely Art glue for a while, so I may be going a little heavy on glue here. But I like them both. I just happen to get low. I'm getting low on Barely Art, so we're going back to art glitter glue for a bit. So I'm just making sure it's centered on this little rounded, let's say, tab. I'm going to kind of flip it over because I want this edge to be matched up here. So it should be lined up with this pink edge right here. And we're going to do the same with this one. The difference is it doesn't go all the way down, so it'll just be lined up with this fold. But before we do this, we're going to have, the box is going to hinge. This is a hinge, so it's going to go like this. So when you cut it, it creates a mountain fold. So we want to do a little bit, at least fold it once in a valley fold to get it prepped. So I'm going to fold it backwards. And I'm just going to take my bone folder, because it's pretty gentle on paper, and fold it like that. I'm not going to do like really hard because I don't want I still want it to have a little resistance, if that makes sense. So, but we have it pre-folded, ready to go when we get to that part. We're going to go ahead and add glue on this. and then center. Again, we want this long edge to be lined up with the fold. So you don't want to go over the fold. You want to go ahead and center it so it's equidistant on the edge here. So just eyeball it to start with. And you can kind of match up that little indentation down, center it. But you just don't want to go over that fold. So I'm just trying to push it down a little bit so it lines up really well. Have it up a little high, just like that. So if you're concerned about it being not lined up, I'm going to take these other two big pieces here, the panels, the ones without the tabs, and we're going to go ahead and put the panels on those. So if you want to line them up, this is how you can do it, kind of to see where it's at. So this one, so they're both the same size. You want to line it up at the top and center it all the way around. So you want to make sure it's lined up. You can do that and scooch it over. So you can use that as a guideline, similar with this for the other one. But if you are pretty much centered, I wouldn't worry about it. I'm going to put guidelines, with like little cut lines to help you guide. But my feeling is on this one, that wouldn't be that helpful. I thought about it, and it's going to be hard to line it up with the guidelines too, just because of the curve. So I'm just going to go ahead. The most important thing is to line it up here. And then I'm kind of setting it down to get lined up. Then I'm making sure that there's about the same distance around. So you can see it kind of lines up there. It lines up enough where your eye can't catch it. So you just don't want it skewed to one side. So I'm going to do the same. I'll add this one right here, and then we'll go ahead and start putting together the top piece. So before we put together that top piece, so we're going to put these together in just a moment, I decided I would just make the flower embellishment that go on the front, and this kind of what I call my little hinge on the back, my hinge embellishment piece, will layer them together. So the flower comes with these. So if you wanted to, you could not use the heart and use like a little rhinestone or something like that, or heart rhinestone, but I have that. I'm going to put a little glitter glue on top of it to give it a little bling after I'm done. But for this one, so this goes on the back, so we simply just want to layer it on. So you want to make sure you have that, something like a fine tip applicator works really well, or you can kind of brush it on. So I'm just going to add a little glue here, because we don't want the glue to be visible, or you can do little dots. And some people would probably, I mean, you can use your fingers to rub it so it doesn't show up through the other side. I just kind of got it on the other side here. But be careful to wash your hands. I mean, I'm just doing it so it doesn't come out on the other side. So it looks like I have a little damp paper towel to help me. So we're going to line it up. Should fit perfectly on it. So one of the tips is to get that lined up with the hole, the opening, the heart opening. A little bit of glue there. And then you can kind of flip it over, go around sides, and you can see it's lined up. So that's pretty easy. Just the biggest challenge there is the glue. Just making sure there's no excess glue here. And then with the flower, it's just a simple kind of a petal flower. So I'm just going to, you could pull them up or pull them down, but I'm using my little stylus to kind of curl them up. And there's one is bigger than the other, so this is a smaller piece. So it's a pretty simple flower. You could put any other flower that you may have already in your stash. Just something to place on the little tab of the box. I'm going to offset here. So we want these petals to kind of be the opposite of the back piece. So I'm going to pull them up just a little bit more. Don't have them centered quite right. I'm just adjusting it as I go. So it's up to you. I mean, some people might want to fold it backwards, just the petals like this. I mean, that's always an option too. I'm just going to do it. I'm just do it a little bit so I can get some separation. And then these little pieces, you could curl them up, and if you wanted to give them a little dimension, you could just pull them up with your fingertips, the little edges. Then we have this little one that goes on top. I mean, but if you wanted to lay them flat too, you could lay them flat. They'd just be perfectly fine. I wanted this to be a 3D design box, but that didn't take a whole lot of putting together. And it really doesn't. Now you're just going to pop this little heart in the middle, and then we'll glue it on to the flower. And what I did is I actually took, this is not yellow paper, I actually inked it with yellow ink because I didn't have the paper color I wanted, so I just used some distress ink to get the color I wanted of the middle of the flower. So this is just to put together so we have it ready to go. So there we go. So a cute little flower. So we're going to put these pieces aside, and then we'll move on to the top of the box. So the main pieces we need are, we already put the panels on the ones without the tabs, these pieces. So we're just going to fold these. You can fold them like that. And if you do have something like a Cricut that just has a, or use just a score tool, because I do a little cut, I kind of cut my scores a little bit, they're called a kiss cut. But you might want to use something like a bone folder to fold it. And then I haven't folded these yet, so I'm going to show you this one. I'll probably pre-fold the one for the bottom. But we want to fold all these. And before you fold the tabs down, so about halfway through, actually halfway through, if I fold it in half like that, so after I folded it, I'm going to fold that tab. So that's in half, so this is folded in half. So this is the top of it. To make the heart shape, we need this to be not a mountain fold like it is up. We want it to be a valley fold. So I'm going to gently fold it down. And then do a little light, little pressure to get that fold. Like that. So you have the heart, the top of the heart. So now we want to go ahead and fold these up. So once we get these folded up, we'll add those top pieces, the side pieces I should say. So there's a couple ways you could do it. We can go ahead, we're going to anchor it with one tab. So you could start from the side, or you can start in the middle. So I'm going to start in the middle. So this is going to go like this. So the way it's going to glue is like around like that. So we want to anchor one in place and get that first one anchored really well. So we're going to go ahead, I'm going to do this middle one. And this is why folding this is so critical before you start. So I'm going to go ahead, make sure it's facing the direct way with it folding down like that, and that you can see the textured side if you have textured paper. I'm just going to put this in the edge, line this up. I'm trying to show you on, see if I can get it on camera right there. You see, I'm just going to line that up and glue it on the outside. So I just want to make sure that that's all you can see inside. This is lined up, and I'm pushing in from the side to make sure it's lined up. And this part right here, this fold, is in the dip, I don't know what they call it, but the corner of the top of the little point, I should say, of the heart. See, I got the right word. So we're going to do one side at a time now that you got that anchored, and I'm not going to worry about the glue not being completely dry, because I can wipe it off, and it's going to be the inside of the box anyways. You're not going to see it. So on this side right here, I'm going to fold them down. I fold them up to really illustrate, and also so you can see where to add the glue. So I'm just kind of going in. So now I added glue, I'm just going to push them in up a little bit. And then I'll go a little bit sideways so you can see it on film here. So I'm going to start where I anchored the first one and then just push in. And you want to just kind of get pressure and go around. As you go around here. And I use just a little bit too much glue. Just because I haven't used, been using barely art glue for a while, so I need to go a little lighter. So make sure you know how to use your glue too, because if you're not familiar with how your glue is going to react with your paper, you probably want to do a little testing. And throughout my videos I use different glues. At one point in one time I liked all of them, and I think you can use all of them, but I think glue is a very personal, it's just a personal thing to everybody. Everybody likes a different glue, so I think it's just a matter of finding the glue that works best for you. Like Scotch Quick Dry I kind of like, but it dries a little too quick for me because I'm a slow crafter. So found myself having to constantly reapply glue. So here now I'm going to start with this middle piece. I'm going to flip those up so you can see it a little better. And just continue going around, pushing in right down here to make sure those edges are lined up with each section. If it's slightly off, it's not going to affect it a huge amount. And a lot of this is just practice if you're not used to it. So we're going to do the same on the other side. So again, you could start with the end, but it's just a matter of making sure that it's going in correct like that. But I always find that anchoring one helps to get you started and get it more correct than not. So here I'm just going to do it from the top. See if I can do it from the top. So I'm just going ahead and pushing, making sure that that fold in the top middle part of that part. I was slightly off, but it shouldn't make a difference. And then we'll continue doing it the same way that we had. I showed you. Just going around. So this is how we're going to do the bottom as well. So I know you can't see it, but I'm doing the same thing where I'm starting from where I just glued the first tab, and then I'll go towards the right. And I'm pushing in to make sure that those edges are flush with the inside fold right here, the tab fold. So you can see. So I'll go ahead and finish off the other side just the same, and then we'll go ahead and put on those top panels. So you can see what it looks like, the shape of it, and inside. And we won't see the inside. This piece will go on top like that. So, but in order for us to put these on, there's a reason why I'm putting this on in a certain in certain steps in an order, because we're going to put these on next so we can get on the inside and apply pressure. And the same thing, we'll take these two and put them on before we put this piece on, so we can get pressure underneath here. So once we put that on, so just letting you know there is a thought process to the order we're going. So I'm going to take this bone folder, and you could do this against the edge of a table, but I'm just going to pre-curl them. So when I put them on, it's going to be easier, like that. So this will hide it makes it easier for me to have edges like this for you to put it together, and it makes it more accurate, but this will hide that. For the most part, you only see the edge of it. So that's the reason why we're doing this, and it's just that I like panels and everything, and I like embossing, so I had to add embossing. So you can see here, these are not as wide as the top pieces, so we want to center that. So it's going to just show a little bit on each side. So that's how we're going to put it on. So after we curl those, we're just going to go ahead and add a little glue to one edge. You do it sideways like that. We're going to start at the middle. So just want to make sure you want to put that right in that middle part, and then but you want to make sure that there's room, there's a little border on each edge here, like that. Kind of eyeball it. And so I'm just using the pressure inside to glue that one side. And then instead of gluing the whole thing, we're just going to glue it at the very end here. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same on the other side. So just the edge of it, we're going to add some glue. And I'm just going to add some pressure going down so I can make sure it goes down as far as I need to. And then we'll just go ahead and get that in place. So I'll do that the same thing, starting at the middle, gluing it and then gluing it down, and then we'll put these pieces on. So now you can see those are on. So now we're going to go ahead, and it doesn't matter which one, if whatever you think is the best side is what you can put it on first. And what we might want to do is just put this on first, at least this piece. So we'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll attach it. So this, you can go up, you just make sure you can go up as high as you want, just as long as it doesn't go over the fold. So because this needs to fold down like that. It's just easier to put things on when it's flat. So we actually have to put these on before we put this last piece on down here. It's just going to be easier for us to apply pressure, and you'll see right here. So you can go ahead and choose which one. If you feel like one looks better in the front versus the back, you might want to put the front panel, which is the other one. I'm going to end up putting the hinge piece on first. Get my hands full. I didn't want to get glue on that. So this is, you want to line these up on the edges around carefully. So as long as you line them up here, it should line up fine. I'm just doing a little adjustment. Once you get it in place, you can just flip it upside down and apply pressure inside. And this is so we can get it nice and flush on the front, and then it's hiding our tabs. And the same thing here. I'm not going to put the flower on yet because it's a little bulky. We don't want to mess up the flower. That's easy enough to put on last. Or any embellishment, like I said, if you wanted to change it with put your personalized tag or another embellishment or whatever you like on the front there. So we're going to go ahead and line it up. So that's why the nice thing about having a this just lines up right there. See, this can line up where the fold is, so we want to get that as close to the fold as possible. But the good thing about wet glue is that you have a little wiggle room time to get it lined up, and then once it's lined up, making sure that it's a smidgen off, but not enough to make a difference. So we'll go ahead and flip it over. So here comes a little bit, the next step is, as I apply pressure here, is to put this piece, and we're going to cover, so it's going to be a solid piece over this section, so when you open it you can't see it. So we're going to flip those down. What we want to do is attach this to one of the pieces to anchor it, and then we'll close it shut. So this one doesn't bend. This is a straight piece. So the easiest thing is to do this one. Just slightly bend that back. And we already pre-folded it. That's our hinge. I'm just going to add glue to this piece, and we're going to anchor this bottom piece onto this tab first. Make sure I don't get too much glue on that. I'm just going to spread it out just a little bit. So I somewhat got it in places I don't want. So I'm going to get that off. So we're going to go ahead and line this up like this. And I'm making sure that the textured side is up. And then I'm going to apply pressure here to get this in place. So you could flatten it at this point and apply pressure like that. So whenever we can do that, we'll do that. Now we're just going to go ahead and add glue to these 3 remaining tabs. So I know it's hard about that, so try not to get any glue on this. Well, you don't want any glue on this part right here. Let's see if I get the right thing. So we just want it on the actual tabs. So we're going to just push them in just a little bit. We want them up a little bit so they'll grab it when we fold it down. So we're going to go ahead and, oops, and sometimes I do that. So you kind of have to add enough glue so it doesn't dry on you when you're doing all the tabs. So I'm trying to get close to the edges because we want to make sure that we get those edges glued well, and trying not to get it on the front or the back of this piece. I mean, it really isn't that difficult. Okay, then we'll go ahead and I'm going to start from the back and then just going to fold it forward. And I'm lining it up on both sides here. As I pull it down, pushing it in a little bit, and then just making sure that it lines up. And now, normally I would say with this kind of closure I would put it flat, but we can't because of this. Structurally, I wanted this to be really strong, as well as the hinge. So this is the reason I'm doing it this way. So we just want to make sure we rub each of the edges really well to get it adhere. And then that'll complete the top piece except for the flower. So let me So that'll be the front and that'll be the back. So when you open it up, it'll hinge like that. So to put the bottom piece together is similar method. Differences is in two pieces, so we need to glue them together. So as you can see, if I do this, these are the same. This is the bottom of it right here. So what we need to do is, you'll see there's a rounded tab. That's the one we're going to glue on the bottom. And then these have sharp edges for the top piece of it. So I'm going to flip them upside down so I can see the textured portion. We're going to line this up. So this is pre-folded. You want to make sure so you can see where it is. So we're going to add glue on that rounded piece, and we're going to glue this tab to the inside to put these two pieces together. So we're just going to line them up. I'm just going to get that excess glue so I can make sure. So you want to go right up that edge, right up to the tab fold. Try not to go over the fold so it's inside. So we're going to do a similar thing that we did before. We want to take the two pieces with the tabs, but not the ones with the panels, and we're going to anchor them just like we did the top piece. So I'll show you one. So I'm going to use this little bottom piece to anchor it. So we'll go ahead and add glue to this bottom tab, and then we'll make sure that we're putting it on the correct side. So make sure that texture's on the outside and this is folded on the inside, towards the inside. So I'm going to go ahead and line this up. So I'm just getting this bottom edge of this panel lined up with that middle tab of the bottom piece. Get it nice and anchored right there. And just like we did the top, we're going to go ahead and do each side. So once we get this anchored, I'm just going to flip it over, make sure that it's good and set. The glue is set. Make sure you wait long enough for your glue to set. I'm going to do one side at a time. My glue bottle's getting a little bit stuck, so we're going to go ahead and let's have a little pin I'm going to put in just to get us through this. So it's the same process, it's just put this on and then the edges, and you go from there. So just to show you, start from that bottom piece, come up, and we want to push it up as we apply pressure, making sure we push from the outside. Make sure this edge goes in each of the folded sections. A little glue in there. You really want to make sure you get that last. You don't want to gap at that top piece. Just had to get some glue off my fingertips. And the same way for this one. Fold it under. So I'm not going to do the other side. Just have to feel like I'm left-handed right now. So go from the middle all the way up. So it's the same way in the other side, and then we'll move on to the next step. If you do like this project or any of my other projects, I always ask if you could give me a little thumbs up, a like on our video, and or subscribe to our channel if you haven't already done so. If you hit that little notification button to the right of subscribe, that little bell, you'll be notified when we have new videos and new projects, that kind of thing. So we have that one side, that's what it looks like. So I'll go ahead and put the other side on, and then we'll go on to the next step. So we're almost done. So I already put one panel on, so we want to also do the same thing on the top. Just have a little edge on both sides. So you can curl it a little bit to start, but it's not much of a curve. So we're going to go ahead, I would start at the top for the bottom part. When you're putting on the panel, just glue a little bit on the top. We're going to line it up. I'm lining it up right up to the fold and making sure that there's an equidistance between the left and right side to have that little border there. Get that in place. Then we'll go ahead and add glue to the other side. So not different than the others. It's a little bit easier because it's not as curved. So when we go down, I'm just going to push it down, making sure that it stays centered so I can get that in place. Depending on the thickness of the panels you're using, that's because I'm using cardstock, it's a little bit, it's getting a little bit more pressure on it. It does help that it's embossed. Once I get it in place, I'm just going to flip it over, and you can go, it's flat right there, right here. So again, do that. So now we have that in place. So let's go ahead and put these panels on. So you can decide which is which. I mean, if you want to match it up, we can do this. See which ones match up better for you. I think this will be better for the front. So I'm going to put that one on the front. I'll put the other one in the back. And just like we did with the top panels, we're just going to line it up in the space. The difference is these fit perfectly, or should. There always could be a little one off just because of the allowance of the tab fold. But pretty much it goes right on. I'll make sure there's no major gaps, so you want to get glue up here. So you can get as detailed as you want with the glue. Just going to line it up the top first. I don't want too much gap when it's closing, because when it's closing, if you have gap here, you're going to see it. It doesn't have to be perfect. So once you get it in place, you just flip it on its side and really apply pressure around those edges to get it so you don't have many gaps around the edges, just like we did here, because we don't want it to be pulling up right there. But if you needed to, you could always kind of like put some extra glue with some paper, or kind of get it in there to eliminate the gap. Well, these are intentional gaps right here, just because of the way that we put the panel on, but we don't want that to happen on these panels. So it's pretty close. You have a little gap there, but still the glue's still wet. So we'll do that on the back as well. So a lot of it's just getting the glue coverage around the edge before you apply pressure. Then we're going to go ahead and put this piece on. So just making sure there's no gaps. So I did deem this the back. So I'm going to keep that in mind when I put together the box. So I'm going to put right here, I'm just going to do this really quick. Front, just so I know. I'm going to glue over that. So now I'm going to go from the front to the back. You can go from the back to the front too, but I'm doing this on purpose so I know which one's the front. I can tell anyways. We're going to go ahead and anchor this piece. So carefully add glue. So similar to what we did on the top, but this one's, it's a little bit easier because we have access. We can get to everything. We don't have those things on the side hindering us, making it a little bit more difficult. It wasn't that bad. So I'm just going to get that. So we want this to go up to the fold. So this is, the tab is slightly smaller than the edge. So it should never, you shouldn't be able to see it at all. But you want to get that good and secure. Then we're going to go ahead and add glue on these side tabs just like we did on the top. Going a little fast here. The difference is that we can actually reach in and apply pressure from the other side because it's open. So it makes it just a little easier to glue than the other one. The other one you have to kind of continually apply pressure. This one, not really. So I'm just going to make sure there's no glue on my fingertips. What we want to do is fold it down, and as we fold it down, get it lined up on the sides first. So you can kind of push it in, lightly rub it. I'm trying to avoid it kind of bowing up, and it could happen if you don't get it straight. So if you start going from where you folded it to the other side. And I'm just going to make sure, you want to make sure that it's all the way down as flush as possible. So it doesn't, you don't see the edge here. So just at the end, I have a little glue on my fingertips. But it is nice you can get in to do it, to get that pressure. So there it is, like that. And I'm kind of pushing it down too, just to give it a little bit. I was just double checking to make sure there's no like really noticeable edges. And then we'll go from there. But you know what, I did want to put on a little bit of an embellishment. So we're going to do that really quick before we put the, actually we can do it after we put the box on. Box together. So these two ends, as you can see from the side, that flips out. We want to slide that in like that. I made sure that I had the front side facing. So this doesn't glue, this glues on. So I'm just going to go like that so I know which way it goes. I'm going to add glue to this big hinge. And this is where you have to kind of hold it a while. So get a good glue coverage, but not too much to go through your paper. So you have to kind of know your glue. And we're going to go ahead and slide it carefully. We want to line it up. So you want to lift so you don't get glue on the back parts where it doesn't need. I want to make sure that it's centered. Just kind of taking a gander really quick. And from the side, I don't know if you can see, I'm kind of pushing it in. You don't want to push it too much because you'll hit the bow. So you want to lightly get pressure. Just push the side in a little bit. Kind of hold it in place. And at the same time, I'm pressing down. So you want to make sure that it's lined up on the sides and then press down. You need to hold it for a little bit. So you want to make sure it's good and adhered. But you can't push it in, else you hear that little boat, the little popping noises. That will cause you some issues. You don't want to depress anything. We can't get to underneath this, so this should strengthen it. So you really just need to use your whole hands to put the pressure. So I'm going to finish off the box, but I am going to add a little bling to it after the fact. So I'm going to decide where I'm going to put it, but I'm going to put a little bling. Now, some points I want to show you is that if you don't get it, one thing, I made a mistake, and I'm not ashamed to tell you when I make a mistake because I want to make sure you don't do it. But I'm not going to redo the whole box just to do it. I didn't get it lined up when I glued it. Make sure you get those together. And I just didn't look on the other side when I was showing you. So you can see that little gap, and that's just because I didn't place this edge up around that where the fold of this was. So that was just a minor issue. The other thing is when you're pulling this, and you can see a little gap. It doesn't bother me, but if you bothered by the gap, it's long enough to be able to go to the other edge. So if it goes over, because it just depends on the thickness, I just didn't get it all the way over. Depending on the thickness of your paper, you may have to trim it. So if it's really thin paper, it might go a little longer. So it's not a real exact science, so you may have to do a little trimming for some reason if it goes over. The other thing, I think I've covered all of it. That was the major things to avoid. So I don't have a closure on here because the weight really helps. So it's going to open like this and go down like that. So if you do want to do a closure, you could do like a little Velcro dot or something, but honestly it doesn't really need it. And then you can put little Valentine's goodies in there. So let's go ahead and add that flower and any other embellishments to finish it off. Make sure my heart's up. It don't need to be on the side. And that's where you can do some fine tuning of the, I just like to flip them up, of the flowers. Whatever else you want to put on it. Because essentially you could do anything on this. You could replace this with anything on the front and put any pattern paper. So that's it. That is the 3D treasure box, I mean. I guess it's a 3D heart treasure box, if I say that right. So here we go. So it just opens like that. And then so you could add a little tag to it if you wanted to, and on the back is this little hinge. So I hope you enjoyed this project, and I thank you so much for watching.